All right, well, welcome to the continuation of MCIC 2022. We are all here for tonight's session, the impact of women's colleges education and outcomes for leadership development and achievements, a narrative inquiry into the lives of faculty and alumni of Hwa Nan Women's College. We do have some community standards during MCIC. I will link a PDF to the full version in the chat, but I do want to share a few verbally before we move on. Please obtain consent before taking any photos or screenshots or sharing content that our presenter might have for us tonight. If you're doing this for a class assignment or any sort of professional development write-up, that's completely fine. We just don't want people's photos or content to be used without their permission. Please mute your microphone when you aren't speaking. When you are speaking, please turn your camera on and identify yourself. Speak clearly and slowly so that our live closed captioning service is as accurate as possible. So our live closed captioning service can be accessed by using your Zoom toolbar. If you see a button that says CC or more and click those buttons, you should see a option that says view live transcript. If you will click that, you will be able to see a black text box that is displaying the speech that I'm saying right now. If you have any questions about this, please utilize the Zoom chat and message one of your co-hosts this evening. Most of the sessions during the Midwest Culturally Inclusive Conference will be recorded. This is being done to make the sessions as accessible as possible for those who cannot attend. The recording links will be posted in Hwa and on our Campus Climate YouTube page. You could access the Campus Climate YouTube page by scanning this QR code on your screen, just so you have it kind of handy on your smartphone. I'll pause for a few seconds if anyone wants to do that at this time. If you have any questions this evening, please utilize the Zoom chat. You can message any of the hosts either publicly or privately. We have a few hosts and co-hosts here tonight. The only one whose name I didn't get on here in time is Natasha Geyer. We will also be monitoring our Campus Climate email throughout this session and throughout the entire conference series if you'd like to contact us that way as well. And finally, I would like to introduce tonight's presenter, Amy West. The title of her presentation is The Impact of Women's Colleges Education and Outcomes for Leadership Development and Achievements, a narrative inquiry into the lives of faculty and alumni of Hwa Nan Women's College. The presentation will share and discuss the research findings from the researcher's doctoral dissertation titled the same that I said above. The presentation will also include a review of the contributions of several Western missionary organizations' accomplishments in establishing women's colleges in unexpected regions. And now I will turn things over to Amy.
Thank you, Emily, for introducing me. And it's so exciting for me to be able to have this opportunity to present what I have gained over my study. So again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me. The title that Emily just mentioned, The Impact of Women's College Education. To me, as a person who walked the journey from East to the West, I count my blessings so many times that I know without the professional educators in the East and in the West, I know I will not be here presenting. So I want to acknowledge and give my deep appreciation to all those educators who have impacted my life. And tonight, for your presence to be here, it is such an encouragement that for me to be able to have this opportunity. And so I'll go ahead and do the PowerPoint presentation first, and later after I finish or during my presentation, if you have any questions, just jump in and let me see if I can answer with my best knowledge. So Kaden, if you would help me go to the slide. So outline of my presentation. Introduction will be the first part, an overview of the study. B will be the background and research question. And then the second part is review of the literature. Number 3 will be the methodology, and then the research results. And the last part is conclusion and recommendation for future research. Overview of the study. So when I started my study, that was back 2017, the end of that year. And finally, after kind of the I guess, thinking and deep thoughts, and I ventured into the study. At that time, when the director of the program say, what will be the possible future dissertation topics? At that time, probably I have a dozen of them in my mind. But finally, when it comes to the last stage of dissertation journey, I felt like there is a nudge of this, almost like the Holy Spirit saying, this is where you need to go. I was very still resistant, but yet it did come to me. So overview of the study. So study examined the impact of Hwa Nan Women's College. Women's college education and outcomes for leadership. Perspective and experience of former faculty and alumni included Hwa Nan Women's College. That was missionary setup college, 1908, and it went all the way until 1951. Later, through the miracles that took place, Fujian Hwa Nan Women's College were reopened. So it was the same college with the newly group of alumni. I would say those were the outstanding ones that who were able to form as a group that it was unprecedentedly at that time. None of the other universities or colleges will have that kind of structure of leaders, but these were outstanding. So later I'll talk a little more about that. So it was reopened in 1985 and it's still going on now. All contributed to legacy of the 3 earliest Christian women's college in China. These Western missionaries cultivate a group of uniquely educated women led by outstanding women's educators. Next slide, please. Hwa Nan Women's College. So if we go back to the history of it, I'll do just so far we have about 7th presidents over a century. And the first president, Lydia Trimble, her journey, I have a research list book recorded some of her story, and then there were other stories that written about her. But she was Lydia Trimble, Western missionary educator. They're born in Canada, but then she went to Iowa, Morningside College. She got her college education, and then she felt there was a calling for her to travel all the way to the Oriental land. And she landed up in southern China, where she actually pioneered 2 girls' school, high school. And so after her 2 middle school experience of establishing those, then she had this vision that the need for establishing a women's college. So she was able to come back to the United States and propose to the board, and she was not expecting that she would be the first president of the college. But again, with her contribution and the dedication, that she was appointed as the president of that college. Now, Fujian Hwa Nan Women's College that was established in 1985, that was under Dr. Bao Shengyu, and she's alumni of Hwa Nan Women's College. So she graduated from Hwa Nan College that was established in 1908. And she came to the United States. She got her master's degree and then she got her doctorate degree. She went back to China during the time that was not the peaceful time, but she went back because her mother, she remembered when she left China, she came to America. Her mom told her, what you learn from there, if you know that it could be beneficial to other students or come back to be able to serve. So her choice of returning, it was not a very good time, but she decided that she'll give up. She was actually invited by her professor And her professor someone was very well known. Actually, it was so well known that the professor wanted her to stay, but she knew that her heart is to go back and serve where she was from. And so that was kind of the choice, I would say, for that kind of sacrifice that she had to make and willing to give up what she had obtained here. Those are kind of the ultimate, that I would say, the education that impact her life and so many others that who worked with her, established the later Women's College. Thank you. Can you move on to the next slide for me, please? Okay. So here, along with other succeeding faculty of Hwa Nan Women's College and educators, professors played their unique and very important role in promoting Chinese Women's College, their leadership development programs. Hundreds of Chinese women were blessed to have the opportunity to have access to women's college education in a unique learning environment. And this study focused on the lived experience and reflective stories of women who have worked, studied, and benefited from the women's education as the impact of women's college on their life and career development. Next slide, please. Background of research. So research studies regarding the impact of college education, leadership development have always been abundant, but for private women's college in China, especially the first Chinese women's college in South China, Hwa Nan College later was named Fujian Hwa Nan Women's College, was not the case. And as alumni of this unique college, I, the researcher, recognize it's a calling, an obligation to carry out a specific study concerns the significant impact of this private women's college education and the outcome for leadership development and achievements. So according to the newcomer that were from the research, by 1890, 20% of the higher learning institutions in the United States were for women, but no women higher education institution existed in China at the end of the 19th century. In 1908, Western Christian missionaries, according to Wallace, this is the reference book I use, and then there were other articles that I have researched from the website. So Lydia Trimble opened a new chapter of women's college education in China. And for me, I remember from my elementary school to all the way, I like language, I like arts, I like music. Math has always been a challenge for me. And thank goodness that I was able to tackle all classes that with math, numbers, statisticals with B's, and it's really hard to get the A's, but I'm glad I did complete all those. So I actually, when I knew I have a choice, I could do qualitative research. I was so happy that, you know, it's something that also passion from me. I want to know what kind of impact the women's college had done. So what kind of learning experience and leadership development and programs have made the learning at the Hwa Nan Women's College so impactful? For me personally, I can say without that women's college, I would never come this far for my academic pursuit. So with personal experience, and then I also want to see what made those, especially Dr. Bao Sheng-yu, when she finished her doctorate degree here, and she could easily be offered to continue to do her work and her research here, but she gave that up. And I was always wondering why and what made her made those decisions. So that's the quality research question. That's the overall one. And then when I do my research, I have 3 questions. Thank you, Kate. The next one. So 3 research questions. How does women's college education impact its alumni? Number 2, what is the impact of women's college education? And number 3, what are the outcomes for leadership development and achievements from women's college education? And thank goodness, I have a wonderful, again, a group of mentors and professors that when I was study at the Women's College, and then when I studied at UW-Platteville, and when I studied at University of the Cumberland, literature review, this has been always a part of that chapter, I felt like it's so broad and enormous work, but I was able to narrow down and just focusing what I have learned from this journey here. So I have a few bullet points here. It says, so overview of China's main philosophies in women's education. Along more than 2,000 years of that society, they, I would say, really emphasize on male have the access to formal education, and women will be kind of put aside and was not regarded as significant, important to be that role of being cherished, I would say, in many ways. So anyway, that was through this process, I started getting into a deeper thinking about, what made our society nowadays, that there's so many things going on. And so as I was reflecting on women's education in China and then look at in a broader view, I just couldn't help thinking, education has such a powerful way of transforming in many aspects. So anyway, next point is non-Protestant missionary impact on China before 19th century. And then Protestant missionaries activity between 1807 and 1842 in China. Western Christian missionaries influence between 1842 and 1942, those 100 years, especially women missionary contribution to China from the Western world. And I think that was the part that really got my attention. And I thought to myself, without those missionaries, especially the women missionaries, it couldn't be women's college in China. And I feel like I needed to count, again, my blessings because of those missionaries who are willing to give up whatever that they have here. And then they went into a land that they have never been to, and what kind of life or culture shocks that they have to do adjust. I just couldn't believe. And so during that process of doing literature review, I have come to a much better understanding when we talk about education, especially in that leadership role education, it involves lots of sacrifice. So the impact of Western Christian missionaries' work from 1840 to 1940. So here, outcomes impact on China through translation, opening Western medicine hospitals, establishing college universities. Those are three major parts. And there were many other areas that I did not even include it. But when I look at the literature, when I look at the hospital medicine advancements and university and colleges, I just have to say one thing that I have to really, really count. Interesting thing here, in America, all the hospital, it's a blue H, right? But in China, for hospitals, if you look at it, you will see a red cross. And before I came to the US, I would think, maybe America also have this red cross outside the hospital, but then that's not the case. So through this process, it really helped me understand the differences in some of the area, the background similarities. Yanqing Women's College, Hwa Nan Women's College, and then Jinling Women's College. Those were the three pioneer, the Christian women's college that Western missionaries established in the 20th century. And then in the review, I also did a brief review of leadership development. Thank you, next one. So methodology that I use here, it is a qualitative study with the narrative inquiry approach and explore the unique background of the Southern China women's higher education. So timeframes was original Christian faith-based Hwa Nan College. It was 1908 to 1951. And then current one is established 1985. It was intended to explore the lived experience of former or retired faculty and alumni of Hwa Nan Women's College and Fujian Hwa Nan Women's College. And with the technology that I was able to not just interview people mainly in China, but students or graduates or faculty who live in Fiji, in Australia, Canada. So it has been a wonderful reconnection and almost reunion of some of my former colleagues or former teachers and students that I have taught. Thank you, next one. So target population, so former international faculty and alumni from the Hwa Nan Women's College. And total number I interviewed 57, and range time, the shortest around 40 minutes and the longest was 120 minutes. Those 57, 13 were faculty, retired faculty, and then 44 were the alumni. Research process was assisted through modern technology, such as other helpful social communication apps. Now, the narrative inquiry method that I applied, so I did is identify common themes, similarities on impact of women's college education, and different paths that alumni had taken to their leadership and the knowledge they have gained from the women's college, what kind of impact had on their life and career development. Okay, so the results, 7 core themes with the acronyms of impact and big emerged from the study. And number 1 is independent thinking, inspirational teaching, and innovative learning that input curiosity as well, mind growth knowledge. And the number 2, maximize learning opportunities, motivate to learn and continue to learn management skills in time and make the best use of every opportunity or chance for self-improvement. And P stands for persevere in pursuing a passionate personal interest, and the noble cause or other things like potential exploration, discovery, and practicalities in learn theory and how we put those into application. So what students or what learners have learned, it's very significant from the concept and understanding, but eventually how they put those theory into practice. So that's the first 3. Number 4, A is aspire ambitions and dreams, acquire essential skills and help apply self-disciplines and achieve short-term and long-term goals. Number 5, we see the communication skills are prioritized, committed to the chosen path and selected courses and carry out the obligations. When we do things, lots of times I believe it was either could be out of our passion, out of interest, or out of obligation. But here is not just carry out the assigned obligation thing, and it's from the heart and call for reaching higher purposes in this life. Number 6 is teaching and learning intermingle throughout everyone's journey and taking good care of the mind growth for its very significant the impact and solid foundational building. This good. The 7th theme, go ahead next. So big, B is believe in the mighty predestined power and in one's really like able to achieve something great. And then EI, like ignite the curiosity, the mind that the learners have and involved in the noble cause of higher education or started from education. So in Greek original means bringing the seeker out of darkness into the light. And G, growth mindset and grow with responsibility and respect. So the research finding from the conclusion part, the findings show that the efforts that those earlier Western Christian missionaries, founders, that they have put into really that kind of establishment, especially as women's college in Southern China, this has allowed educators and believers to continue impact many future Hwa Nan generations. Their vision, faith, and believing in the calling of the mighty Lord and Western Christian missionaries, including Lydia Trimble, their remarkable achievements in amazingly beautiful ways, really through so many organizations and believers in the Western countries that have made the women's college in China possible. So Hwa Nan Women's College graduation education has produced achievers in the professional world that show outstanding qualities and attributes that make them leaders in their respective fields. The Women's College gave them the necessary tools and the skill sets needed to equip them for successful endeavors throughout their lives. the education received from women's college is truly life transforming and the changing, that metamorphic, I would say, because of it's so powerful, it's so amazingly transforming, there's no better education experience that those alumni have experienced that they could ask for. And my alumni and I are forever incredibly grateful for all the attributes and what we have learned or have discovered in those years at the Women's College that really would not be possible without the Hwa Nan Women's College education. And it's revolutionizing in my life. And then I also found out through my interview and the research that their lives that have been forever changed. It's because of that experience. Recommendation for future research, including continue and enhance the current study by performing qualitative research and analysis in China's other women's college, or more in-depth study with mixed method research approach. And these are references. I just list a couple, and then in my real dissertation, I think there's 20, 30 pages of references. It's good. And I should have put an acknowledgement at the end, but I apologize. I know for me to be able to have this opportunity to present, I truly want to thank Emily and Caden for both of their leadership and excellent organizing skills and make me feel so welcome. It's one of those things as a graduate, especially from the Women's College, and then later when I joined the UW-Platteville, and the experience that I had at UW-Platteville with really working experience and then study experience for the master degrees, that was another truly amazing experience for me. And I always felt like, you know, without the Women's Foundation and then without UW-Platteville, I would not be able to move on to the University of Cumberland's doctoral study. So every step along this journey, those impact that I have gained over the decades, I have always reminded myself, it is from those sacrifice, the educators and what their leadership, and truly amazingly, the leadership that I have discovered, I use two frameworks. So it will be transformational, the servant leadership, those leadership styles, that the combination of them that impact me, especially because it's a women's college and with a small scale, and you're able to really interact with professors and classmates. You know who are your in your class. What I have learned over the years and through their encouragements and their role model, what they are willing to give up and what they're willing to contribute, that make me feel like as a benefit from this women's college education, and then from the co-ed education. UW-Platteville has really brought me to the level of understanding the combination and able to have that growth mindset, really apply my learned knowledge into practice and willing to learn. That helped me understand that in order to walk this journey, not giving up, no matter how many setbacks and difficulties that you have to overcome, is through this journey that I have learned to be grateful and to show that we are willing to try. And one door is not open, you go and open the other door and knock at the door that sometimes you will not know. But when someone willing to give you words of encouragement and someone willing to share what they have, it has been truly, it's a journey of discovery who I am and what they have done to make me who I am today. So thank you for everybody for listening. And that's the PowerPoint presentation. And I know in chat, there are number 8, I didn't get to see the chat. So right now I'll leave the room and for interaction, for questions and anything that I missed, and you can add to it.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful to learn about your research. I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. Who was your mentor? Who was your inspiration? Did you have somebody in particular that impacted your life?
Oh, I would say many. First, if I started from my family background, I would say my mom. Yeah. My mother, she she only have second grade education. It's not because she didn't want to go to school. It's because in her family, her dad, so my grandfather, want her to stay home and take care of her younger brothers. So anyway, for my mom, she always felt like, and at that time, I guess it was the social situation, that was probably the best that they felt like. So part of it is that make me feel like they really favor boys than girls. So my mom's life that she always felt like, she said, you know, if I had the opportunity to continue to education, so I just couldn't believe, like with 2 years of education, honestly, you know, I have seen from my journey, I have seen many amazing women. And I thought to myself, the wisdom my mom had, she doesn't have all the credential education, but it's the way she interact with other people, the way she raised us. I have 2 brothers and 2 younger brothers, 1 younger sister. So 4 of us, that we are so blessed to have a mother who is capable, who is sociable and willing to go and whatever she could to make it, the way she prepare the food and the way she keep the family in a very positive energy. So I would say she is one of the most impactful women in my life as I was growing up. And then she supported me going to this college. Back to me personally, as I mentioned earlier, I really didn't spend time studying math. I was interested in language. So I actually became very interested in English when I was a 7th grader. And so I know lots of math assignments. So what happened is when I took the national entrance exam to university, I didn't do well. I did poorly on math. And that really made me miss the opportunity of going to university or college. And one of the amazing things is I did not choose this Hwa Nan Women's College. I didn't choose it. Looking back now, I felt like there was a divine hand that just picked me out of thousands of, because I was, so what happens that year, the college, they need 100 students, but only 90 committed and officially registered. So they have 10 spots. And I was one of those handpicked 10. I did not even choose this college. But fortunately, you know, I felt like the mighty Lord has a hand that in my life make me have this opportunity. And because if I follow the traditional way, that probably I wouldn't have a chance to go to this private women's college. But because of my mother, she herself realized how much I love language. So she supported me, and my dad supported too. So they both supported that they want me to go to this women's college. And again, I didn't know, and it was very small. So when we talk about the size of this women's college, it's about 6 acres, probably the tiniest college in the whole world. But I know it's not the size of the campus, it is the quality. The college, because of the Christian background, so we have retired international faculty, very experienced professors. And so can you imagine, like you pay the tuition that other college of technical vocational college have, but we got the top world best faculty who came and taught there, and their willingness is, they didn't ask monthly. The payment they got is about $300 US. They went there and teach. And so what I learned over the years, I was always curious, like why these international faculty, they're willing, you know, to give up their time. They could be spending time with their grandkids, but they went there. And so we got, I was just so lucky, you know, I got the best world top quality faculty and at this tiniest women's college. So it is truly, again, come to that education. True education is the relationship between professor and student, mentor, and a learner. So when I come to that women's college, when I was chosen, and one of the interesting things is I miss lots of the summer. They have different training, but it was, I would say, a good miss because I didn't need to do things those. And when I joined it at the end of September and those 3 years of learning, it was a vocational college, so it's only associate degree. And I was very fortunate, again, upon graduation by another miraculous arrangements. And I was asked to stay at the college as a teaching assistant, started, and then later become an instructor. There were so many things that I could not imagine if this hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened. But again, life, it's kind of like, there are lots of times to me, it's a puzzle. But then when the missing puzzle were found and put it together, I realized that was one of those very interesting moments. And so I was fortunate, and I was able to work for the college for 10 years before I came to USA. And then for going to UW-Platteville, that's another very interesting story too. I won't go into the detail of it, but able to have that 4 years studying and working at UW-Platteville, what made me realize is that the opportunities like this kind of conference, and then there were seminars, workshops that UW-Platteville offer, really make the impact. I know classroom instructions are very important, but those extracurriculum activities, speakers invited to the campus, talks given by leaders, administrators, I think it's all make impact. And what I got, I will show you this one. It's a leadership. When I was a graduate assistant at the multicultural students office, I was really fortunate that I was invited to join. So it's by, let's see, James Anderson, that so he talked about his life experience and he shared. And so 22 hours, Saturday, Sunday, 22 hours, this leadership from the heart training, it made the impact that helped me continue to follow that pursuit of when you are someone that you are able to make the impact on others. So that was, again, one of those highlights. I remember it was so transformational. I was able to bend the metal rod, the steel iron rod with my knee. And then the other thing, I had never practiced karate, but from his presentation, he observed everybody who did that split of the square wood. He said, before your hand touched the wood, he said, the wood already split it. And I thought, because he was saying, he said, I have observed many, he gave probably 400 workshops, but he said, I have noticed that's what's coming from you. And I thought, wow, that was just unbelievable. And it was so impactful. I wrote a letter of appreciation to the I told the director of the multicultural office, and then actually I wrote a letter to the chancellor, and it was, I didn't make a copy. Now I wish I had made a copy of what I wrote. So what happened is later, chancellor wrote a handwritten note back to me. So I didn't have it tonight with me. I left it at home. But it was really, really like, if I look back, I think it's because it's from my heart. And I think it touches my heart so much. I wanted to write that note. And then unexpectedly, I got a written back note from the chancellor. So those were really moments that make me feel like, learning is beyond classroom, in classroom, beyond classroom, whoever that you are in contact with. We have several people that are joining us. I'm sorry that I didn't introduce myself earlier. So again, my name is Amy West, and thank you for joining us. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk and share about myself. The journey, again, the education journey, I always feel like it's never ending. So, all right, I better see if there are other questions that I need to. Kaden, did I?
No, we don't have anything in the chat yet.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Amy, I have a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Amy, I just really appreciated you sharing your story and these interactions, because I think sometimes we don't, I don't think we appreciate enough sometimes, like how significant some of those like basic relationship building or interactions are, and I think something I'm trying to find for myself is finding significance in things that people assume are insignificant, because I think those little connections really do add up and create kind of a catalyst.
Thank you. I'm glad that you give me such a positive feedback. Did I lock myself out or can you still see me? I closed the screen, obviously, in front of me.
Oh, we can see you.
You can still see me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I won't be able to see others. Let's see what I can do. What happened with my side? All right, that's fine. If you can still see me, I'm not going to mess more around because I will probably close myself if I do it. Any other comments, questions, and I would like to leave it open.
Well, I'm going to go to another meeting, Dr. West, but I want to say thank you for presenting. You said, you know, these extracurricular activities, these extra presenters is what made a difference in your life. And now you're doing that for us. So thank you so much for participating and being willing to share your research with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your positive feedback and thank you for joining us tonight. It's an
All
honor
right.
to have you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Emily, you had a question, right?
Yeah, Amy, so where are you at in your journey now? I think you mentioned maybe a school that you were at earlier, like where's your professional career, where you're at now?
Right now, so since I graduated from UW-Platteville, I was offered a job to teach my native language, Chinese, and then now I also teach global studies. So in this school that Southwest Wisconsin, it truly has helped me understand the cultures here and then know the students, their background a little deeper with what I learned and gained from UW-Platteville. My master's degree, one is in counseling psychology, the other one in adult education. It really helped me that prepare myself in a way that I had not expected that I would use what I learned from UW-Platteville to that kind of degree. But I know that whatever I learned over the journey, it has been truly, truly useful and helped me become a more confident educator and able to know that with that kind of knowledge in mind. So again, in my education journey, that I know I want to treat every student, every learner. And I remember one of the sayings says, remember as an educator, every child in your classroom is another person's whole world, or could be another family's whole world. So we know the goal of educating kids is to help them gain knowledge and learn, continue to help them grow in their learning journey, but knowing and understanding, have that empathy and sympathy, understanding the various needs of different learners are very significant, important. So I was always like useful, I was always counting my blessing as I'm so glad I have the background and the education journey I had from not just women's college, but also from UW-Platteville.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions for Amy? Any other questions or comments?
If no questions from the participants, may I ask some questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so for those who like the provost tell me that she joined us, and I really think that she was very supportive of my presentation, and for her with her busy schedule, and I know everybody's busy, and can you tell me the main reason if you choose to come to this? Is that because the topic or because it's something that echo with what you are interested in doing? Anyone who is willing to share?
Well, I could share. My name is Rebecca Powell, and I missed the beginning, Amy. Dr. West, but I work in continuing education, and you were part of the Confucius Institute,
Yes,
which I had so hoped to work with, and of course we don't have it anymore, and I think it's very sad that has gone away at the university, because I think that the things that I at least saw, I've only been there 2 years. This is my almost my 2-year anniversary, and the things that I saw that were done at the Confucius Institute were wonderful, and I know you were a part of that. So I wanted to at least say that to you, and really like the work that you had done for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think for me, that was a great learning experience too. As a language and culture assistant and also coordinator, I was able to use that, what I learned and what I have gained from East and Western journey. And I understand that as people, I think we all love peace, truth, and we wanted to build better communication channels, and those are really good ones. And unfortunately, sometimes other people use it for not the right direction. So I understand that the closing of it could be significant for people who know. I say we don't need that. And what I have learned over the years is people wanted to have that open communication. And then if that kind of organization, if it's not used for the right purpose, I understand the importance of closure. And I do think, in the education world, that we need to be educated. And it's good that we know what's going on and what is right, what is not right. And so I appreciate that you let me know. Continuing education has been significant. And I think, for me, graduate from that vocational 3 years college, and then because of that continuing education and with the correspondence education, so I was able to finish the bachelor degree and then later have the opportunity to move on to master and doctor degree. So I think every journey, every phase, what's offered in everybody's life, probably the needs are different and the expectation maybe from different programs are different, but what you are doing, I think it's just significant to meet the needs of different age and different background learners and presenters. I know you have really introduced lots of amazing, wonderful workshops to the community and throughout the tri-state, so many wonderful, great activities and programs. So thank you, Rebecca.
I think for me, Dr. West, is that you talked about during your presentation that education and educating ourselves is continuous and that it should always happen. And I think that for me, this is also my second year at UW-Platteville. So I didn't get much of an opportunity to engage with MCIC as much as, I could have, right? Because I've only been here 2 years, but I constantly want to hear people's stories, where they're coming from, and I think it's just a great learning experience. And I think that getting to know other people's stories can really help me support my students as well, just building that cultural competence, and just expanding my knowledge on different backgrounds and different cultures, different areas. So thank you for sharing your story. And about women's colleges, I guess I don't think I knew that there were women colleges, because, they always talk about high schools that are a men's high school or like a women's high school. But when I was growing up and going into college, I was only looking at co-ed and never thought, oh, there's women colleges, right? So, and it's nice to hear about, the ones over in, were you saying China? Sorry.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool to hear about a different country and how that impacted you.
I appreciate that. That's wonderful. And you're right. I guess as I was growing up, I didn't really think about, women's college were accessible to me. And, when I heard it was usually those elite women's college, or like only girls or women from very influential family that they're able to afford to go there. And when that letter of admission from this women's college that I did not even know, and it just surprisingly, like kind of something it's almost a manna drop from the heaven and come to right my plate. And it's amazing that with that journey. And I think, again, looking back, it's because the women's college, it was small classroom and the campus, and there with those women who have walked the journey of accomplishments and what they have learned over the years, they knew the importance of building confidence, able to, especially like girls from the countryside that, especially from family, I would say, you know, we are kind of the socially economic disadvantaged family background. We you know, homework never being helped by the parents because they couldn't. And I thought to myself, with that kind of encouragement, and that's why it's so significant, because when I discovered that I could learn, I could help myself to achieve something if I'm willing to put my heart and mind into it. And that's what made the difference in my life. It's because those educators took extra miles and built those that really important qualities in me and in many of my classmates. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
And again, I want to thank Emily and Kaden, and for all of your professionalism and your personal compassion, able to help the speaker and all the participants able to feel like we are here to learn from one another. And I know sometimes I guess I'm not that comfortable just say, oh, let me go and do this. But then the more I learn over the years, and I realize this is what I use to encourage myself. It's never too late to be what you might have been, and by George Eliot. And I know, given my age now, you know, I'm in my 40s, and I, you know, for this journey of venturing, getting the higher degree, I felt like sometimes you felt like, is it worth, you know, time-wise and all the other factors considered. But then as a educator, we talk about that learning is never-ending journey. When we learn, I believe that we have better perspective of who we taught, and those important factors that all filter into our life, that we know that when we see something that coming out the situation, adversity or challenging situations, it's that people have worked, and then there were sacrifices invisible to us. It's behind when someone able to achieve something, not just that person, it's many, many people behind that person able to prompt it and then help this case become successful. So again, I always feel like, you know, just Kaden said earlier, it took the whole village to raise kids. And I think I am the one that not just take the whole village, it's the global education, the educators, international faculties from so many different countries, that they were willing to go to this faraway place and strange land that they are willing to cultivate, and they are willing to put their hearts into the education, invest in me. So again, it's that kind of kindness, their joy, their love, and sacrifice, even long suffering, because you know they have to adjust to so many different cultural shocks. And so for me, counting my blessing and be positive in a way, I would use this one to encourage myself and students too. So here is picture and the kind of the background of winter. So this one says, never regret a day in your life. Good days give happiness, bad days give experience, worst days give lessons, and best days give memories. And along this journey, I know I have encountered challenges and trials, but it's because of what I have learned from the education teachers and professors and mentors, that I know, like one of my favorite song is Rose, a song by Bethany Miller. Rose, that song encouraged me. You know, when we see pretty flowers blooming, blossom, we know there are so many factors that make the flower blossom. And through the process of knowing how that can refine us. And so it's a journey that I know I am always thankful. So thank you for thank all of you for your participation and encouragement. And I have this opportunity to present. And I want to encourage myself and you that I should continue to pursue what's in my heart and the passion that I have for education. And hopefully that I will make some impact with those people that I have interacted with.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Amy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for organizing. And I know the efforts and so many details that you have put into it to make things working so smoothly and nicely. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity.